Every creative project starts with a blank canvas, an empty stage, a spark of an idea, but no guarantees. Uncertainty is basically the lifeblood of creativity. What if we could tap into that unpredictability, but not as fear, but as something that drives us to create our best work yet? Cue the theme music.
Today, we're diving into the unexpected connection between uncertainty and creativity. We often think that creativity thrives in structure and clear direction, which we talk about a lot on here. But what if it's actually the unknown, the unpredictable, that leads us to our greatest creative potential?
I like it. I love it. Let's get to it.
You're going to say I want some more of it.
So when we talk about uncertainty, let's just jump right into the benefits of uncertainty in creativity. And I want to start with my own experience. As I've talked about before, I create music. I spend a lot of time doing that when I'm not doing the other things that I'm doing. And for me, what I love about creating music is there's such a strong sense of uncertainty in my process. I do have a structure. I have a way that I typically start. Usually, I either start with a melody or a drum pattern. And I have kind of a flow that I go through between finding sounds to creating progressions, then to adding lyrics, and then mixing and mastering. So I do have a process, but it's a very loose process. I typically don't start with a vision. I typically don't even know what I'm going to create. I sit down and I go through sounds until I find something that I like. And when I land on that first sound, everything just organically grows from there. I love that uncertainty. I think my best projects have come from that. Even when I've created full projects and said, okay, I want to make something about this sort of feeling. While I have that kind of very specific thing that I'm looking for, everything else that comes from that is it's all organic. It's like, all right, let's just get into the flow and see what happens. That for me is why I love uncertainty. I love to get in there and just explore my creativity. I think that's a big benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great example. It's very organic, your process very fluid. I like it. Yeah, I like to see your journey of embracing creativity when you create music. It's fun. What I really love about it is when I'm like, what I really what I also love about embracing the uncertainty is like with improv.
Hmm.
There's like, depending on like what game you're playing or whatever, like whatever technique you're practicing, like there's a loose structure with some of it. But for the most part, like you're playing in the uncertainty. Like you don't know, like you don't even know where it's going to start. You don't know where it's going most of the time. Even when you're doing like long form, like you have to ride the wave of uncertainty and like find your footing as you're doing it. And like, that's the fun of it, is like playing in the unknown and like watching what comes from it. So yeah, I'm a big advocate for like exploring and playing in uncertainty. And not having like a don't put the blinders on before like the project's finished.
Right.
Thing.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about losing that rigidness, and really exploring the possibilities of what can happen. I think people look at creatives as naturally free and open to everything, and and I think you'd be surprised by how many are actually not. There's so many technical creatives that follow such a process and a pattern, and when you go out of that box, it's uncomfortable. And you have some people that when there's a plan and you can't stick to that plan, they kind of freak out, and I think that's such a restraining process to work within those lines, and I think of some of I think of people like Will Ferrell or a lot of his movies where, you find out so many jokes are not actually scripted.
Yeah.
Uh, you find out that just kind of happens in the moment,
Mhm.
and you think, man, I can't believe that the funniest part of the film that I just watched was something they just came up with on the fly.
Mhm.
Some of the greatest moments just
Yeah.
happen because you're feeling the magic of the moment,
Mhm.
and that's going back to the music analogy. Like that's what I really love about creating in the moment and just letting everything else go. Have a plan, sure,
Yeah.
but live in that moment.
Mhm.
There's something about it that's magical, and you don't want to miss that magic because you're
Yeah.
trying to stick true to something that you planned before you got into the space of creativity. Uh, there's that you gotta let it loose.
Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it always reminds me of John Lennon's quote, "Life happens when you make plans."
Mm,
Like, and I really think it's a balance of have the structure, have the plan,
yeah, yeah.
but know that that could always potentially change, and you'll have to be flexible in how you, like, adjust and pivot in the moment, and I think it really just truly is a balance of becoming friends with uncertainty
Mm,
and having fun with it, and having this structure so, like, the bounds you're working within, like, what the limits are, and
yeah. Joel
yeah.
Embiid used to say, "Trust the process."
Who?
And Joel Embiid,
Oh, okay.
NBA player for the Sixers, and he said, "Trust the process." That was a big slogan for the
Mhm.
Sixers at the end of last decade. And I think about that in creativity. Trust the process. Like trust yourself and what you bring to the table. And so, sometimes when things don't go according to plan, you got to be ready to shift.
Mhm.
But you got to trust yourself. You got to trust what you're capable of, because you never know. You never know what's going to come out.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, committing to being fluid, like, that's what creativity is, like, fluidity,
Hmm.
and so the more you can stay flexible, I think, and, like, malleable is the most helpful, and that's what uncertainty is.
Yeah. And there's a lot of growth. I think about that as well. There's so much growth in getting to that moment in a project where you're either stuck or where you just you're not sure where to go next, and then you just kind of try stuff. And at the end of that project, you kind of find yourself in a new space. You've evolved. Where
Mhm.
you're like, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know that that was even something I was capable of doing, or
Mhm.
I didn't know that that was I didn't know that that sound or that shot I was going for, or whatever it is that you're doing. Sometimes you find out new parts of yourself
Yes.
when you're in that uncertainty.
Mhm. I think like, you also get to experience and, like, witness, like, the magic of, like, the new sparks of creativity in those moments too,
Mhm.
where, like, you are uncertain or maybe, like, you're stuck and, like, you're having this blockage with it and you're not sure what to do next, but, like,
Yeah.
when you kinda, like, take yourself out of it and, like, play with different things or, like, sit with it, and then you get to that next step through creativity of, like,
Yeah.
"Okay, this is how I'm going to move forward, this is what I'm gonna do," and it's, like, those happy kinda
Happy
like
accidents.
yeah,
Yeah.
or, like, surprises, and you're like, "Wow, I didn't think that would come from that, but, like, that was cool
Uh-huh.
to see the process, like, unfold."
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just it's one of those magical moments. I know we've talked about it before, like the
Hmm. It
glimmers or, there's another word we used for it.
was the genius.
Genius.
Yeah.
There was, like, actual, like, term, though,
Oh,
outside of
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. I remember the term. It's
Yeah.
we'll have to kind of find it
Yeah.
again. That
Yeah.
was yeah, Elizabeth Gilbert talked about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think when we talk about the benefits, it's the play, it's the growth, it's finding that fluidity. It's these are all the things that come from this space, and it's so vital to you as a creative.
Mhm.
Um, I think the other point is that we'd like to talk about is how uncertainty breeds innovation.
Yeah.
And that's kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just saying,
Mhm.
but there are so many things that have become something different uh, because of uncertainty, because of
Yeah.
something that someone started out to do. Started out with a plan. There's a vision, and through the course of creating this thing, the vision changed, life changed, the world changed, and they had to pivot.
Mhm.
And in that pivot, they found something new and exciting that they were able to create.
Yep. Well, I mean, it even goes beyond because I think sometimes people put creativity in like the art box,
Hmm.
but it's so much more expansive than that. And like people are constantly using creativity, like we say, every day to come up with new creative solutions and problem solve and ultimately innovate.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it goes across all industries,
it
from
does.
science to technology to, whatever it is. Creativity and uncertainty are like the wheels like kind of behind it all
Hmm.
that are turning it and yeah, moving us forward.
Yeah, yeah. I think of when it comes to innovation, especially in the tech world, I always think of Apple, and I think of how long they spend working on different things and really trying to perfect different things and bring different things to market. And it's crazy when you look at some of the early patents that they had for things where, at one point they had a patent for like a visual keyboard that you like
Mm.
controlled with your like eyes and stuff like that, and then you see something like the Vision Pro exist, and that technology is kind of included. It's evolved, but you see it's included in that, and it's like, you wonder, okay, was the patent that they originally created, was that because they were working on Vision Pro, or was that something like that they were
Yeah,
just
that
kind of
just
working elsewhere, and then when they were on Vision Pro they're like, but how am I gonna fucking type?
oh
Somebody else
yeah.
was like, well, wait, we've got this patent for this.
Yeah.
Let's
To use
apply
it
that
for
to
here.
here. Yeah.
Because I think what we all thought when we heard about that was like a holographic keyboard
Yeah, that was the big
that
vision back then. Yeah.
you were gonna like actually.
Uh
It
huh.
seemed more physical,
It did.
physical.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Maybe they like called an audible and like or found the right fit.
Uh huh.
Like sometimes things don't have a fit
Yep.
in that uncertain like phase until you get to that aha,
Yeah.
like, oh, this could actually work here.
Yep. You applied to something
Yeah.
different and it works flawlessly, and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
well, fantastic. I'm glad I
Mhm.
did this back then.
Yeah.
And then even like continuing in the Apple conversation, like I think about they were working on an Apple car for like 10 years. And it was constantly being put in development, and they're working on it and trying to figure it out. And I think last year they didn't announce, but it was announced that they're not really working on that anymore. And they're going to focus more so on the software than the hardware.
Mm.
And that makes sense. But you think about that and you're like, you look at what's happening in the car industry right now, and you see, with electric cars kind of taking over, you see Tesla really doing their thing. But the car market's tough. It's year after year, and Apple does it with phones and computers and stuff, but it's yearly releases on a car that you've got to be keeping up with in competition with everyone else. But as far as the software goes, there's not a ton of competition in the software market for cars. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of the companies kind of do their own thing, but you know, General Motors is not a software company.
Yeah.
Honda is not a software company.
Mhm.
You've got Tesla, and Tesla creates their software, and that makes sense. They're a bit more of a tech related company than a car
Yeah.
company. Um, but that's a prime area for Apple to not only be in multiple cars, but find a new way to innovate how cars run from a software perspective. And
Mhm.
so I'm excited to see what happens there, but that comes from doing something for a period of time, but also paying attention to everything happening around you and being able to pivot in the moment and say, you know
Mhm.
what, we had a vision, but I don't think that vision really is what's best for us anymore.
Yeah.
And I think we need to try something different. And let's continue in this industry, but
Mhm.
maybe we do something a little bit more us.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about that when it comes to uncertainty and the innovation is being able to pivot in the moment and recognize when something you're doing isn't working,
Mhm.
and it may not even be the best option. There may
Mhm.
be a better option for you to do with a different skill that you have that will actually be innovative, be something that hasn't been done before. But that all comes from uncertainty and just kind of going out and doing it,
Yeah.
going out on that limb and jumping.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also like it's so ingrained in us as humans
Mhm.
to overcome and get through uncertainty through innovating. And that requires creativity, like the imagination as well. So like I feel like it's so innate
Yeah.
for us. And I think it happens on a lot of different levels that we may not even realize or like maybe we take for granted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best people to listen to when you want to hear creatives talk about uncertainty are directors. I always love
Mhm.
listening to behind the scenes of different films because the director always has always has this vision and plan going into the film, but then there's 9 million reasons why certain things can't happen. You've
Mhm.
got a producer telling you we don't have the budget for
Yep.
that. You've got an actor that shows up sick or gets hurt. You've got all these different things that take place. Crew members not doing the right thing, crew members not doing the right thing, or crew members um, or crew members giving out ideas that actually are you're like, oh well, that's kind of a better idea than what I had,
Yeah.
and so you're shifting on in the moment. But so many stories from directors have I heard where that whole an experience, that whole job is living in the uncertainty.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is walking onto a set and you've got the best plan you could have,
Mhm.
but also you're prepared for that plan to go completely out the window.
Uh-huh.
And
So
so
many things you can't control.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I definitely, if you are trying to get a better understanding of how to embrace that uncertainty, like pop on some behind the scenes of your favorite film and just listen to that director talk about all the obstacles they had to go through to get that finished product to you.
Mhm. And speaking of innovation, and we're talking about directors and all that, I
Hmm.
think of how um, James Cameron
Hmm. Oh yeah.
create created a whole new camera just for
Hmm.
Avatar
Yeah, yeah.
to
The
be like
the
that's incredible.
Yeah, the original cameras that at the time when that came out was a
Yeah.
2010. Uh, they couldn't do what he wanted them to do.
Mhm.
So he had Sony create new cameras
Yeah.
with his specs in mind that were able to do what they needed to be done and create this 3D world.
Yeah.
Um, that is like the top tier level of innovation. Now, granted, we
Mhm.
all don't get that power.
No.
Well,
Or that
yeah,
budget.
yeah. James Cameron has created so many, big budget films for them and successful projects, and so it makes sense you trust in somebody like that. But that's part of being going out there and doing your thing at the highest level
Mhm.
is because then you get to the world becomes your playground at that point. That
Yeah.
industry becomes your playground when you have done and achieved so much that you get to like live in uncertainty at the highest level, and that's what we all I think aspire to.
Mhm.
But that's a great
Mhm.
example. Yeah, yeah, a great example.
Yeah.
But I know you're thinking that you're like, okay, uncertainty this, uncertainty that, but like Cobain, Taylor, like 5 episodes ago, you were talking about the importance of structure. You got to have structure. You got to have structure. And you're not wrong. We're not saying to not have structure because I think
Yeah.
both are important.
Mhm.
What we're saying is that when you get to a place in that structure where you feel like, oh, I don't have a plan for this,
Mhm.
lean into that. Don't stop.
Don't fear it.
Yeah, don't fear it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid and say, "Oh, I don't know what
Mhm.
I'm gonna do." I think it's now's the time that you explore that playfulness and just get at it.
Yeah. And I think bottom line, life is uncertain,
Mm,
but we figure it out every day. And a lot of times we'll have routines or some semblance of structure to kind of like keep us on track. But like bottom line, it is uncertain. So we're always playing in the gray area. Um, yeah, no one has it all figured out.
yeah.
We're all like playing this game together,
Mhm.
but the structure helps keep the focus for sure.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, a healthy balance of structure and uncertainty is most likely where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
When that middle space there, where you're firing on all cylinders in both your structure, but also in your uncertainty, is most likely where that genius shows up and amazing stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And just like that core message of really embrace the uncertainty and don't let it like destabilize you. because of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on this journey with you, and we want to hear some of your stories about when things were uncertain in your creative projects and like how you got through them, what epiphanies came
Yeah.
out of it. Yeah, we'd love to hear your stories.
Yeah, I mean, stories are how I think we learn from each other. And so we would love to hear that. We'd love to even see, I mean, share projects. Like I think that's the thing that we really want most in this community that we're trying to build is we want people to want to share projects, share what they're working on, share links and things like that. Because the whole idea is to help each other grow as creatives and to help each other be noticed as creatives. I think some of the biggest lie that's ever been told is that you alone need to take yourself to the mountaintop.
Yeah.
The reality is most things happen with a team, and most things happen with support.
Yeah.
And we are here to support you, and we want to support everybody that's wanting to be a part of this community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's vibe. Get out there, be uncertain, take that structure of yours and vibe with it, but be ready to throw it out of the window and when things go left,
Yeah, use your imagination.
Ooh.
Krabby Patty season.
Yeah. Hit them Krabby Patties up. Don't go to Wendy's though.
Speak of
Don't
creativity
go to Wendy's,
and
though.
innovation.
It's a scam. It's a big old scam.
The other ones look good though.
Anyway, this is the life we create. I'm Cobain Rivers.
And I'm Taylor Joy Stevens. Like, subscribe, share this episode with someone you think would benefit from it.
Yeah, thank you for spending another week with us, and we will talk to you soon. Get out there and create.
Yeah.